let's get more on that data breach then, and the 1,000 or so names and addresses of those who've received a New Year's honour were posted online by the Cabinet Office for a short amount of time. Let's talk to the Professor of Innovation at the London South Bank University, James Woodhousen, who's here. Good to see you this morning. How serious a data breach is this?
Well, I think when you're talking about 1,100 people, Ministry of Defence, Intelligence, Police, it's a very, very serious data breach, and to give their personal addresses is quite extraordinary.
How easy, though, is it for something like this to happen? Is it simply a matter of someone just hitting the wrong button?
Well, that's a trivial thing that does happen, and obviously accidents are going to take place. But I think the wider issue here, and it's always posed by cybersecurity, is that if you've got a disreputable or disorganised or chaotic regime in terms of people, in terms of policies and so on, then you're probably going to have a chaotic and disorganised cybersecurity regime. And I think it's fair to say, beyond Ian Duncan Smith and Alison Saunders, the previous Director of Public Prosecutions, a lot of people are very critical of the honours system and the people who've been given honours this year. And I think it speaks volumes that really the government is so cavalier about this question of giving people honours, and it's all, in the lap of the gods. Hardly surprising that the IT also is in the lap of the gods.
Yeah, but is it fair to say that it's disorganised in that sense? Because actually, it's very little to do with it. I mean, the honours are given out by the Honours Committee, which is actually not to do with the government. The IT system is in effect run by the civil service, so that's not to do with the government. You've got to be careful where you point the finger at.
Well, I don't think I have to be careful. I think the government has to be careful, because what you're doing is suggesting that really nobody should take responsibility.
No. I'm saying the civil service should take responsibility for it. If a civil service issue.
It's a wider issue, which is the integrity of the government, the integrity of the honours system, and the integrity of government IT. And I think what the episode shows us is that you can have all the data protection law you like, the GDPR from the EU and all of these things. You can have even a desultory £17 million fine from the Information Commissioner's Office, but it doesn't amount to a line of beans if you haven't got your basic line of battle in shape, and if you don't really have a legitimate honours system. It's not legitimate.
But hold on. How are you conflating these two issues?
Because IT is always a reflection of what happens in the human world. And therefore, if you have an IT mishap like you've had today, it isn't just a question of a missing finger going rogue. It's usually a question of people don't have a believable, credible, legitimate system of organising and a proper policy on this matter.
Isn't it?
This goes beyond the civil service. In a corporation...
Why aren't you just viewing it as a mistake, a simple, straightforward mistake, when the honours system has been running for very many years, and as far as I know, this is the first time that anything like this has happened. So why isn't it just a mistake?
Well, the mistakes happen, that's true, but I think, the honours system is in such disarray and is held in such contempt by so many people. It only needs one dissident employee somewhere in the civil service to make something that may not be a mistake, that may be...
Do you think it's sabotage?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you have a bad system that is open to popular abuse and popular disdain, then it's quite likely that your IT is going to go wrong. And I think that's what's happening in this
Forgive me. I
don't know why I'm prompting such a vigorous reaction.
Because I cannot. When we're talking about a data breach and the addresses that should have been filled in on those lines should have been the counties that these people are from, and someone has inserted the full addresses. I can't see how you conflate. I mean, clearly you don't like the honours system, but that's not the point. It's
not about just my view. The honours system generally is held in disrepute. If you take the commentary on many of the people given honours this time around, the whole system is very much open to criticism. If you
but to say that and then to say that's why there's been
because there's a connection between the human, social and economic world and the technical world. IT isn't something that's independent from people's decisions, the legitimacy of institutions, and so on. Now, they did have a good record in the past, but if you take the willingness to diffuse responsibility that we saw so grievously around the Grenfell fire, you can see the same thing happening in government now. Whether Sir Mark Sedwill, the Cabinet Office Secretary, will resign because of this serious data breach is a very moot point, because right now in Britain, we'd rather blame the IT or a mistake than actually blame people for a very serious breach.
Is that your view?
Well, I think anybody should resign for such a serious breach. It's nothing to do with him personally. But, if you don't have an organised idea of where you're going, and the honour system clearly doesn't. It's completely arbitrary who takes Theresa May's favour from one year to the next, or now Boris's favour. If that's arbitrary, then the IT will be arbitrary and mistakes will happen. You need a system which the staff believe in and that everybody believes in. That way the IT will generally take care of itself. By the way, this is something that goes, it's nothing to do with the civil service. This happens in corporations. If corporations behave badly, that cybersecurity tends to behave badly as well. I'm sure that's not so surprising.
James Woodhousen, thank you very much for sharing your view. Thank you.
OK, let's get a check on the weather for you today.